developing those stories, could you ever imagine getting to this level with this type of movie coming out, paired with an animated series, paired with an animated series, an animated film, a new video game? Did you ever imagine in your wildest dreams that it would get to that level?
No, but I'm very happy. It's really cool. And my hope is that kids discover Green Lantern and a whole new generation of fans are born. And for all the fans that are already fans, that they just get psyched.
We just asked Alan if he anticipated Green Lantern getting to that level of that Batman and Superman, because they're pretty frequently in these Warner Premiere films. Do you anticipate, or at least is that the long-term goal, to get Green Lantern to that level where he's not just A-list for comic book fans, but A-list for a mainstream audience?
Yeah, that's my hope. I think it certainly has the potential, the characters do, and it's such a different, let's just saying, it's such a different, it's not just a superhero, it's really sci-fi. You know, it's such a different kind of, it's a little bit of Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, and, you know, Superman all rolled into one, so it's pretty cool, but it's unique in itself. And it's got that great core center of overcoming fear, you know, if you're chosen because you have a quality inside you. I think that's really inspiring.
You have such a long love for this character, and you're so passionate about the universe. What is it at its core, besides overcoming fear and that kind of thing, what is it that draws you in to like so many issues of the comic book? So excited about the movie and involved with the movie, you know, and this animated. What is it about Green Lantern and being able to do that does it for you?
I just like the vastness of it. You can do a story on Earth, you can do a story in space. It's about not about the ring, it's about the people wearing the ring. They're all humans, and we all have the potential to be a Green Lantern if we want to be. I don't know, there's just something, and it's cool looking. You know, it's like, I always love the cantina scene in Star Wars, and in my mind it was like, wow, imagine that like times 1,000, but they're all wearing cop uniforms. That's just cool. So there's all these different, it's kind of like the perfect, for me it's a perfect superhero universe.
Now, based on the preview we saw, there's a lot of CGI involved.
Yeah.
What steps did you take? Sometimes with CGI.
On the film, you mean?
Yeah,
You're talking about the film? Can we talk about the animated film?
Oh, I'm sorry. Not about the film.
Yeah. Sorry.
It's all right.
My bad.
How challenging was it when you're telling you're bookending all these different stories and making sure it's all tied together properly? Is that writing-wise, is that a challenge to make sure that all of that stuff gels?
Yeah, I mean, that was really Alan. Alan really did that when Alan first called me and said, hey, we want to do this Tales of the Green Lantern Corps series and involve all these writers that worked on the comic books and really, you know, do a wraparound story where it was Hal Jordan and the Corps fighting this giant threat. I was really excited to be part of it. So it was really Alan that was able to, you know, everyone pitched their stories and Alan kind of pieced it all together and made it work.
With so many superhero projects coming out right now from DC and Marvel, whether it's live action or animated, is there kind of a conscious effort as you're developing these projects to combat, you know, a potential audience fatigue of people just making sure you differentiate the characters?
I'm not worried about Green Lantern because it's so different. Green Lantern is just, like I've said again, it's a little Last Starfighter, it's a little Star Wars, it's a little, you know, it's just a different kind of, it's not really just a superhero property, it's a sci-fi world. So I think you always want to find a different angle and a different tone on when you do all, because there are so many superhero films. But if they're good, they're going to be, you know, if they're good, they'll survive. They just have to be good. All the stuff coming out of it has to be good.
Can you kind of tell us how you got into the business of screenwriting?
I worked for a director named Richard Donner who did Superman for 4 years, and while I was working for him, I started writing comic books, and eventually went writing full-time, wrote comics, wrote some TV and animation and some video game stuff, and it just kind of grew from there.
How involved were you before and after the story and choosing like the voice actors? Did you have any opinion on that?
Okay, my casting, I didn't have anything to do with casting, but I thought the cast turned out great. I thought it was really good.
Is there line? Since it is Nathan Fillion, have you seen the fan trailer?
The what?
The fan trailer.
Oh yeah, sure.
Since it is Nathan Fillion, were there lines that you wish you'd put in after knowing that he was going to be the voice of Green Lantern?
I thought he did a great job with what was there. I was really happy with what was there.
was just wondering, is there a reason why Tomare didn't have a large role in the animated film? 'Cause it seems like he has a big role in the movie.
He does. That might be partially why. I think we were just choosing to focus on different characters. No one pitched a Tomare's story. It was really up to the writers. And like I wanted to do Abensor and Sinestro, and Dave wanted to do Mogo. Pete wanted to do Kilowog, and Eddie chose Lara. So everybody kind of just chose their own character, and it wasn't really like we have to do this story, this story, this story, which I liked.
You kind of got to indulge your fan love of certain characters and certain stories.
Well, you got to indulge what you thought would be a good story, yeah.
Okay.
You know.
That's an interesting distinction.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily what you love, but more kind of what you thought would make an interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I love it all. But it's like if you have passion behind something, you'll make it work. It kind of goes hand in hand, I think.
Are there certain classic stories that you love that you wish you'd been able to kind of work for the movie?
No.
Okay.
No, I was really happy with the ones we did. I thought it was great. I mean, there's a bunch of different ones, but there's not that one out there that I'm dying to see.
How's the response been for some of these more smaller stories, like the Jonah Hex and the Spectre stuff, and now with some of these Green Lantern Corps stuff, as opposed to like the full the full films like All-Star Superman? Are you guys trying to like balance the two out so that you can roll out these other smaller characters slowly?
I think it's just a balance. You don't want to do the same thing every time. And I think that's what the goal is, to use different characters, tell different types of stories, not limited to saying we're going to do this type of story only or whatever. I'm glad that not everything's Batman. Yeah, that would be very boring.
Well, I like it because you can almost play with different tones in each particular character, and you really give that character its true kind of, the real character behind it, and not feel weighed down because it's geared towards one audience.
Yeah.
Is there potential to do another one of these with like more stories featuring some of the secondary characters?
Oh yeah, I'm sure there is. If people like this one, and they decide to do another one, I'm sure they'll delve into a lot deeper. Maybe they'll do one of all the different Corps. I don't know. Be cool.
Will we ever see a Green Lantern and Green Arrow film?
Never say never.
Because I mean, it played a pretty big role in the comics. Back in the
day.
Yeah. They were always together. So I was just wondering.
Has there been any interest in doing maybe a Golden Age Green Lantern, like dipping into some of the Martin Odell stuff?
There's been really a lot of talk of Alan Scott.
Follow-up to this also like two things. Hal Jordan, in particular, I'd like to know what your feeling is, why you're so passionate about that particular area.
I just like Hal Jordan's origin, his journey, his the fact that his father dies in front of his eyes, and he overcompensates, and thinks it kind of misinterprets what being fearless is all about. Doesn't ever recognize or acknowledge fear, and through his journey of becoming Green Lantern, becomes more self-aware of his own fear, and it's about overcoming fear, not being without fear. And, I just think there's something really interesting about that character growth, and I like a guy a hero who flies in first and figures it out second. There's something cool about that. A daredevil makes it unpredictable, so you never know what he's going to do.
Now, your story for this animated film, what was sort of, when you said, okay, I want to sit down and do the story, what sort of inspired you to do this particular one?
I really wanted to explore the relationship between Abensur and Sinestro. It's something that I created in the comic books, and a friendship and kind of mutual respect between those two, and I just wanted to flesh that out. I think it helps. It's also in the feature film, but I think it adds a whole nother emotional depth to Hal wearing that ring. So that immediately Sinestro looks at him and says, "You're not as good as Abensur." Like the one Lantern he respected more than others dies and is replaced by an Earthman. Like this guy from this primitive world where they're born on their planet and they die on their planet. Like it's embarrassing. And for Sinestro to look at this guy and see that his friend's ring is, he represents Abensur's death in a long way. He represents the failures. He represents a lot of different things to Sinestro. So that I just wanted to reinforce that relationship because I think it adds even more to that complex relationship between Hal and Sinestro.
Is there a reason why most of all these Green Lantern stories are more space oriented rather than Earth? Because there is a big story based on his relationship with his father on Earth, but that really isn't explored in any of these. And you feel more in the cartoons and stuff. So I was just wondering.
Did you see First Flight?
I did.
Yeah, there's some of it in there, but the film explores a lot of that, the feature film.
So you have a great voice cast in this project, as well as just announcing Jeffrey Rush, who we just heard in that footage yesterday. It's Tomare. But I wore the shirt, so I have to ask. Is there an actor whose voice you might hear inside your head when you're writing Larfleeze to maybe show up in one of these films down the line?
Not really. I know he sounds like a Muppet. That's all I know. I just don't know exactly which. He sounds like a Muppet, but I don't know which one. Good character, but you will see him some point. So.
With your new responsibilities, everything you're doing now, do you feel, because I know you love his comics, is it more fulfilling being all over the place now, or do you miss the sort of attention comics?
Well, I still write comics, and I still really, really enjoy that. I think that's still for me the most pure creative experience, because it's me and an artist and an editor, and that's it. It's just so working on like an animated film or even the feature film. There's just a lot of people you're working with. There's a lot of different creative people in the mix, and that's great. But there is something to be said too about that purity of comic books.
What was the turnaround time from the film, basically from concept to actually going on?
I think Alan Burnett called me about 2 years ago about it. Yeah, so a while ago. And I only wrote, 15-page script or something.
So how is it different writing a script for the comics versus for the animation? Where it's a completely different set of muscles.
It's different. You have a budget, so you can't use as many characters as you want. You can't use as many locations as you want. In comics, there's no budget. There's no cast limit, so you have to kind of readjust your thinking process there. In comics, you have to direct it while you write it because you're calling the shots, so that's more difficult. So there's things that are easier in comics and things that are harder in comics. I find live action television, like Smallville, once you know the budget and you know what you need to do, it's a lot easier to write than a comic book.
Why is that?
Because you don't have to stop and think like, what panel shot do I lay out? How many panels I'm going to have on this page? You can just write a scene and it is what it is. Somebody else has to worry about how you break it down into shots.
So because not everything depends on just you and the artist, you're able to kind of depend on the writer and the
Well, it's also,
the
I'm not going to say
director.
close up on Clark, pull back to a medium shot. I'm not going to direct the script, direct the episode while I'm writing the script. Where in the comic books you have to say like close up, long shot, very tight on, the green ring, whatever. You have to like pace it all out, and you have to pace the pages that turn. Like it's just a different. And you say I only have 5 pages for this scene. How can I do it? So it's a lot easier when you don't have to direct it too.
So is that something that you might want to get into in the future, to direct?
I don't know. We'll see. I'm pretty happy right now.
I know you only wrote a few episodes, scripts for the show, but what's your feeling? Not bringing it's more of a lens, 10-year run. What's your feeling?
I'm really proud to be part of it.
You'd said, I think it was almost a year ago when you were talking about whenever the movie first got started, that you didn't think there was ever going to be a Green Lantern movie. And then, when you were working with Richard Donner, what does he think of like the animated stuff, the comics, and the progress you've made with just the character in relation to Emerald Knights?
Well, I think Dick's pretty excited. I mean, I see him still quite a bit. He's my mentor, and he's the biggest creative influence on my life, and he's a huge influence on my personal life. So he is. I know he's proud, and that's really important to me. But no, he's like my dad.
Does he geek out with the way you do about?
Well, what's funny is when I first worked for him, and I was working on JSA, and there was an Alan Scott cover, and he walked by and he said, "Oh, Green Lantern." I said, "How do you know that's Green Lantern?" "Oh, that's Green Lantern I grew up with." And I was like, "Oh," and because he remembers buying Action 1, and all the Golden Age comics. So
awesome.
like it's it's pretty cool. So he knew all the JSA, he knew who all those characters were, and so I had to kind of introduce him to Hal Jordan because he stopped reading comics by then, which is kind of interesting.
Is there any future collaboration with a Golden Age Green Lantern cartoon series? Or?
No plans right now.
Nothing. Okay.
But I'm sure he'll appear. I'm sure he'll appear at some point.
Is there a story you've written that you think would be, or that you would prefer for a Warner Premiere direct-to-home feature?
We're talking about it right now.
It's in print. You don't want to tell us which story it is?
No, just in case it happens.
If you sneeze Sinestro Cold War, nobody's gonna.
We'll see. All right, guys. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.